and transaction advisory fees for raising money from the World Bank. We reject loans from the World Bank because they come with conditionality which primarily undermine economic and policy sovereignty of our country. It is a fact that that conditionality from World Bank destroyed many underdeveloped and developing economies all over the world. It is therefore irrational to accept senseless loans with conditionality from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. The EFF in South Africa will therefore, before the end of May 2022, convene International Continental Summit of all EFF-aligned structures all over the continent to talk about progressive socialist agenda for the world ahead and giving each other practical support towards the establishment of the EFF all over the continent. As EFF structures in the continent, we must support each other and must demand political and economic emancipation in all countries where they have not achieved such. We, as the EFF, condemn the military takeover of political power in different parts of the African continent. Political power must exclusively be established through free, fair, transparent, and democratic elections, and not through the barrel of a gun. We call on all regional bodies and the African Union to always decisively suppress military takeover of political power in each and every country. The military takeover of Burkina Faso must be suppressed, and the Mali must be forced to transit towards civilian political power as a matter of agency. We are aware that some of these military takeovers are instigated and funded by the colonial forces, particularly France, which continues to micromanage the politics and economies of the countries it colonized. All progressive forces must reject France's interference in the African continent. The EFF has agreed that in all EFF gatherings, we will establish vaccination sites for alternative vaccines, particularly CoronaVac from China, Sinovac, Sputnik V from Russia, Abdala from Cuba. We reject South Africa's government imposition of vaccines from the West and will practically make sure that alternative vaccines are provided in order to achieve full vaccination of our people to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Even when we introduce alternative vaccines, we still never agree to mandatory vaccination. People must be persuaded and not forced to vaccinate. On the 24th of January 2021, the organization convened an induction of all public representatives. The induction was attended by the leadership from various structures and more than 1,100 EFF public representatives, including 1,066 councillors in the majority of across South Africa. The induction went through the EFF Founding Manifesto and the Public Representatives Code of Conduct. Public representatives deliberated on the Founding Manifesto and engaged on the Code of Conduct issues. All EFF councillors were made to understand the responsibility entrusted with them by our people, particularly EFF councillors who are mayors, deputy mayors, speakers, deputy speakers, and members of MMCs and chairpersons of committees in the municipal councils. We are more than convinced that the EFF has the best combination of public representatives in all municipalities who will be the servants of the people. The organization as a whole is in good health with maximum stability in all regions and determined membership who understand their responsibilities. We are more than ready to consolidate the ground for socialist power and will build strong branches and achieve the 1 million members before the end of 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief. We will now take a round of hands. Okay, Modibe, Falazi. We'll go, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, in that order.
Thank you very much.
Assist there.
Hello, okay. In 2016, the leadership of the organization took a decision to disband Eastern Cape and KZN. We've now seen the disbandment of the Limpopo PCT and all structures. Is the CIC confident that this decision will yield the similar results as has done in KZN? Because we've seen that the the KZN has now grew by over 5%. So are you confident that this decision that the organization has taken to disband the Limpopo PCT will yield similar results as that in KZN? Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Kelly here from the SABC. Just on relation, first and foremost, to the coalition governments, what's the EFF standpoint on the council that's sitting on Thursday in the city of Johannesburg? The last two sittings have collapsed as councillors and parties could not reach a consensus on the election of the various committee chairpersons. Where is the standpoint? Then secondly, on your relationship with the IFP, did the EFF put a condition to the IFP that if they continue with their relationship with the Democratic Alliance, the EFF will pull out of the coalition agreements you have with them in the province of KwaZulu-Natal? Then lastly, SG, some of your members have complained of an incident of gender-based violence that happened in the plenum that you had at Birchwood Hotel. How far is that process? Have you dealt with that particular culprit within your own ranks whom had allegedly laid hands on a woman? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Pelane Pachad. I'm from Newsroom Africa. One question already asked here about KZN, Eastern Cape, and now KwaZulu-Natal, so I will not go into that. The second one that I want to talk about is your satisfaction on the recent interactions you had with businesses. Have you felt that as a unit, when you were talking to restaurateurs and as well as retailers, that you were able to meet the target that you would have had when you went to interact with them in the first place? Did you get the reasonable response that you wanted? That's the first one. The second one, talking about the IMF and the tax issues in the country, what is the standpoint of the EFF? 14 months ago, the government announced a tax on the export of raw chrome ore. It was never implemented, and our understanding is that it might even assist an issue around either tax income if people continue to export raw chrome ore without beneficiating it in the country. Is the EFF looking perhaps to understand why that particular bill that announcement has not yet been implemented 14 months after? Thank you.
I'm Itumeleng at the Star. I've got a question concerning state security. If the CIC could express his view on, the minister presidency, being the minister in the presidency and playing a role in state intelligence. The question is, do you maybe think that President Cyril could use state intelligence for his own political battles?
Okay, thank you, President.
Thank you very much. I think you asked the question and then still provided an answer, both of you, on Eastern Cape and KZN. Today we are celebrating KZN and the Eastern Cape, and KZN being the first one to have 7 deputy mayors of the EFF. It is through those interventions that were made earlier. When we disbanded the KZN at that time, a lot of people doubted what we were doing and actually even accused us of purging people because they are not supporting us and for factional reasons. And when we explained that it was purely organizational reasons why, they performed badly and beyond our expectation, and then we had to intervene. The same thing is repeating itself in Limpopo. Limpopo, we went to the first election in 2014. In 2019, Limpopo increased votes by 1,000, which was a sign that they are stuck. And if we had intervened then, perhaps we'll be talking something else. We came back from the elections. We thought it's not that bad. Let's go, we'll deal with it. But when the Secretary General now presented the numbers of what really is happening in the country, particularly in Limpopo, it was very clear that we are taking the cope route in Limpopo. There is a serious decline in Limpopo where they even lost 25 councillors, not 2. And therefore we can't fold our arms and say, Joe sees our friend, therefore we can't do anything. Clearly, there is something wrong. Not only losing 25%, you still have Lamula, ANC being voted at 85% in this age and era. Once the ANC get 85%, it's a clear sign we're not there. The ANC is cruising alone. And those are the most underdeveloped areas, the most neglected areas. They still drink water with animals. They don't have electricity. They don't have proper roads. When you attend funerals in the Lamula area, you know very well that you are going to have to park your car somewhere and walk to the cemetery. Still, with all those types of challenges confronting our people, the leadership of the EFF in Limpopo is still not appealing. We can't allow that. We can't allow a situation where we are stuck with individuals who don't know what they are doing. So we have had to, decisively intervene. And you can see the caliber and the type of leadership we are sending to Limpopo, that it's a very strong leadership, which is not lazy, which takes no nonsense from anyone. They can never be bullied or undermined by anyone, including the bullies that exist amongst some of those we disbanded in Limpopo. So they will never take chances with this type of leadership we are sending there. So we are guaranteed that in 2024, Limpopo will give us better results. I mean, Limpopo was one of our biggest feeders. So it should have continued with that, so that by the time the KZN comes, then both KZN and Limpopo keep on increasing. Can you imagine what was going to happen? We'll be talking something different now. But the KZN and the Eastern Cape are coming to the party. Limpopo is leaving the party. And we can't allow that. We have a responsibility to build the organization. There is really nothing wrong with what is happening in Johannesburg. People are calling for secret ballot, and they are of a view that the speaker is not reaching out. The ANC and the DA, they are devils, both of them. So you have to choose which devil you want to work with. DA would have made a very good, a better devil. But the DA doesn't want to work with us. And even despite the fact that we voted for them, even when they say they don't want to vote for, they don't want us, we still voted for them. We vote for them, they get in, and they still continue to talk nonsense about us. They never stop. They continue to talk absolute rubbish, racist rubbish about us. So there's nothing we can do to help them. So we have to look at what's working for the EFF. We want to have an impact. We want to be influential. We want to lead also in those coalition municipalities. This thing that people feel that like they can just leave us out like that, as if we are no role players, it's not going to be accepted. So the DA must know the EFF door is still open. If you want to achieve the strategic objectives of the revolution, you have to kiss a lot of frogs on the way. Matlametlu and all types of things, in order for you to get where you want to get to. So we were prepared to listen, even to the DA. The DA is going to collapse these metros. Maybe I must warn you and warn the people of South Africa. Because you can insult people to this extent, especially if you know what power they hold. Let's look at the Ekurhuleni, for instance. If the DA keeps on insulting the EFF and the EFF decide, look, let's go a different way. We can't take these racist insults from the DA. The power will leave the DA in less than no time. DA lost PE they were supposed to have won. we voted with them. Despite the fact that they were arrogant and insulting us, we have always put the people of South Africa first. But those smaller parties that we had consolidated to the DA side, we consolidated them. They said, no, we're not going to take this insult from these whites. We're leaving. We had consolidated those people, they were with us, they were going to vote for the DA. But the arrogance that was displayed in PE, including a white man who disappeared and didn't come to a meeting, the DA never took the country into confidence as to why was that man not in a meeting where the ANC won with 1 vote in PE. 2 things. Either he was bored or he was sick. But the DA must tell us, why was the guy not in the meeting where the ANC won with 1 vote? Because when the small parties shifted to join the ANC and we remained with the racists, the balance was 50-50. It took the DA's racist male to be absent for the ANC to win with 1 vote. The country till today has not been taken into confidence as to what happened. But if it was the EFF man who was absent, we'll be told how many tenders he does with who, that's why he was absent, perhaps. But if it's a white man can never be bored in the standards of South African journalists and media. The PE is still available for the opposition, which is aligned to the DA, to take. But this nonsensical Helen's attitude of a wrinkled old woman who knows that she has lived all her life, she's done, she's waiting for exit, she doesn't care what happens. That's why old people must not lead, because they can't talk about the future which they will not be there when that future takes place. What future is Helen talking about? Because Helen should be saving the knees and all the joints, they are painful, and all manner of things. So we can't have a situation where some old white racist woman want to preside over the future, which will not be there. That's why we have a problem there in the ANC of old people. Old age, Samukelo, means illnesses also in the process. Now you have the whole leadership sick, literally sick, in and out of hospital. I mean, when you look at how Paul Mashatile walks, they are sick. Old age, some of the symptoms of old age is sickness. So we can't entrust old people with the future which they will not be there. They won't be there, but they are saying we are planning for the future. They are not planning for the future. They are planning for their pension. They are taking now for themselves. I mean, if you listen to ANC stories of how much money people go and raise for the ANC and how much they still don't understand why workers are not paid. Someone is taking that money for themselves. Why would the ANC have a problem of salaries? ANC is the biggest beneficiary of the IEC money. The ANC is the biggest beneficiary of the Parliament caucus money. The ANC is the biggest beneficiary of the parliamentary money, what do you call admin. And then the ANC is the biggest beneficiary of all provinces that have been allocating political fund before this nonsensical party funding bill came into place. And then the ANC members, public representatives, levies. I mean, if we can sustain ourselves with the party levies and buy this building with the party levies, how much can the ANC make out of the party levies? No, they are stealing because they don't care about the future. They care about their pensions. You know, these business people of funding ANC, they must just look at the lifestyle of these people. Someone was telling me that this former mayor of Joburg used to be a fundraising officer in Paul's office. if there is a big chunk of money, I don't know, I'm not saying anything. I'm just, telling you as it is. You guys must go and investigate. It's not a fact. But if the chunk of money goes to the ANC, that former mayor of Joburg, what is his name? Mpomoerane is going to buy a new car. There's going to be some flashy, nice car around Mpomoerane. When there is a big money of donation going to the ANC, something changes in Mpomoerane's life. And that's Paul Machatle's confidence. So, and here you've got workers not being paid and leaders living large life. So in the EFF, we're not only paying workers, we also give them bonuses on their birthdays without fail. When we don't have money for programs, we don't even get tempted to go and take the money of salaries. So this money comes like this. Parliament gives us money quarterly, right? Then the money of salaries for the next 3 months gets to be put aside. You can't touch it. Unless there is a serious threat to the stability of the organization. Then we go and take the last month salaries of these workers. Use it there with the understanding that by the end of the month, the party levies would have come through. And then we take the money from the party levies and then you return it back to the last month of the workers. It's called cash flow management. You may not understand it. It's not an easy subject. So you manage your cash flow. I bet those things of history and cash flow management, they don't relate. So you might be disorganized. So let the DA come to the party. We want to unseat the ANC at all costs. But we can't impose ourselves on DA and we can't keep on voting for DA even when the DA is insulting us. We went to beg Herman Mashaba. We are pulling out. First sitting of election of a mayor. I've never seen such arrogance. We are pulling out. We begged him. We begged Makosi Koza. The SG spoke to Makosi Koza. Makosi Koza said, how do we vote for these people when they are being arrogant? The SG called me, I said, she is not going to vote for them, you can see. That's why we lost the Tequin. Makosi Koza was insulting DA on the queue to voting. How do you do that? Even if you are angry with them, now it's time to vote. You said you are voting with the DA. Once the voting starts, you stop the criticizing and go and vote. On the queue, going to vote. I said, SG, listen to her. She's on the queue. She's not going to vote for the ANC. So it didn't come as a shock for me that we actually lost eThekwini because people like Makosi Koza were not well behaved. Then SG gives me that report. I call the DP. DP, we have a situation here. No, she's briefed. No, she's not fine. She's still saying wrong things. They're sitting now. Please sit down, sit down. She sits down. We don't know what she's going to do because she's still saying nonsense. Then the bosses, DP calls the bosses. The bosses have to now send a message in the city. Then she sent the SG a message. Now my bosses have called to reaffirm that earlier position you were telling me about. That's how difficult she was. I'm not shocked now when they are going for each other with her men. We saw it coming. So council of Joburg is proper, we're fine. You see, we gave IFP a lot of municipalities and we never asked for a mayor or anything. Where they came, we said, that's okay. We're not driven by power. We don't suffer from uncontrollable desire for power. We even gave them Nongom, which they wanted so dearly. So when we take, we're going to start from Nongom. We'll take the Nongom one because they love that Nongom. They've got some attachment with it. So we must go to Nongoma and build a very strong EFF there because, hey, they want it. And then we say to them, we give you so many municipalities. We're asking you a simple thing. Let the EFF chair MPEC in Johannesburg. We can't do that without your support. We have to support each other. And I thought they were not understanding me. I even explained in Zulu. Iziyandla ziyageza. I wanted them to understand what I want. Iziyandla ziyageza. No, Bona, they want us to gather their hand only. They don't gather our hand. It's not a threat. The IFP will have to decide if it wants to vote with the DA against us. But the IFP must vote with the EFF. Everywhere they find the EFF. Because they know how important EFF is to them, in particular Nongoma. It's not a threat, it's a commitment. The IFP can't tell us that they are being defied by their region here in Johannesburg. Then they have to fire those people and put people who will carry a party mandate. We're not interested in their internal affairs. We've given IFP a lot, and we can still give them a lot, because part of what we are now going to do in these municipalities in KZN is to talk to RET forces to vote with us. Yes, there are a lot of RET forces in the municipal. There's no longer ANC. There is the RET and this one of big nose. So we must choose. So we must, because that thing of voting is a secret. We're going to talk to RET forces to vote with us, to upset the situation. So, I don't want. That one of gender-based violence, we attended to proper. I think he will be getting his love letter today, because they were to follow some internal processes outlined by the Code of Conduct. He got this letter yesterday of saying, in 48 hours, you must explain why we should not suspend you from the EFF. So that matter is receiving attention. The restaurant visits are more than welcomed everywhere by those who comply with the law and those who want to see progress. You know, when we got attacked because we went to the white men. There are people who are bashing black people then, so telling Gogos to take out IDs. Not a single person who attacked EFF for going to restaurant has attacked those people in Soweto for harassing black Gogos. But because we went to question the white men and said to the white man who was not cooperative, it is not in your interest not to be cooperative, and found himself cooperating like a baby. The colonial clerks are not happy. There are very few men and women in South Africa who can stand to the white men. Very few. And they are only found in the EFF. The rest of you, you love your whites. We have no problem with them. We too love white people, but we don't like white supremacists. And those who subscribe to whiteness will teach you a lesson. So everywhere, that program is continuing, by the way. We are not going to stop. We are saying no Zimbabwean must be chased away. Strike for a balance so that our people can work together. Now, Riditlavi says we must go to the security guys who are waiting outside houses of politicians. They are big and dark, and you know, already she has judged them that they are not South Africans by how they appear, right? We can't do that. We won't do it. She can take a husband and they do that. They can go and do that. We're not going to do it. We're not going to talk to any African. We're going to arrive there and look at the name of the company, and we'll go to the owner. We're not going to talk to workers. There's no Nigerian we're going to talk to. There's no Zimbabwean we're going to talk to. We're going to talk to the owner. We have seen outside Malema's house, your companies looking after those people. How many do you have on your payroll as South Africans, and how many do you have as foreigners? And if the foreigners are unreasonably high, please, we'll come back, try and strike a balance so that these people work together and no one feels excluded. No foreigner must feel excluded, no South African must feel excluded. They must all work together in peace. So, but this one of Reddy saying we must go to those people who are standing outside, he wants black on black violence because that's what she gets sponsored for. To instigate and cause divisions amongst black people. We will not do that. Even when we went to the restaurant, we have never spoken to a single worker there. We have nothing to do. They did not employ themselves. We talked to the employers and will continue to do so. Hospitality industry, the security industry, and all of that. The farms. We're going to the farms as well. Because the farms are higher, even illegal foreigners who don't, illegal in a definition of this thing of papers, because they don't want to pay them. They hire them, and then from there, when it's time to pay, they set police on them. Or there are people here without documents, attack. And then that is an exploitation. We need to defend our workers, especially our African brothers and sisters who are working in these farms without being paid because they do not have papers. That's what we seek to achieve. Write every nonsense you want to write about me. And say like that Justice Malala with a speech impediment, saying, no, Malema loves Mugabe, but he doesn't want Zimbabweans. What nonsense is that? I said, there's no one who's going to send Zimbabweans to the border when the EFF is still alive. No one. Not Mapanti, Tiara, Sangor, they are going to take people to the borders. No one can take anyone to the border. We are here to defend our Zimbabweans. They are at home when they are here. Justice Malala hears me very well because he can hear English. He can also hear Spedi. He's from Bulobedu. He can hear me very well. But because it's a colonial clerk that gets to be affirmed when he bashes on his fellow African brothers and distort them. That's how he makes his money. So why should we be worried about people who understand you very well and then just go and distort what you are saying? I can have a debate with Justice Malala. Actually, it's a homeboy. I can have a debate with, public debate with him. I don't know if that day will have trained properly to speak properly, because sometimes I don't hear some of the things when he speaks. So I can debate him on this question. And he must tell me, where are his problems? Where does he have a problem? So that I can clarify it. You know, the raw materials, we must charge a lot of tax when we want to export, because why? We want beneficiation. With beneficiation comes a lot of jobs. But the reason why it's not being implemented is because these mineral companies are owned by those who own South Africa. They always want to export raw materials. That's how they maximize on profit. And not only that, because they are stealing, they don't even make proper declarations of how much they've extracted from our soil. So we're going to have that problem for a very long time, because our democracy was negotiated by mining magnates. It was the Oppenheimers who first reached out to the ANC in exile and said to them, are you prepared and ready to talk? It was not apartheid that approached the ANC first. It was the Oppenheimers who went to the ANC first and then negotiated this settlement. So that's why they will do as they wish. I mean, the Oppenheimers have got a private airport at our OR Tambo. I will be visiting it, they will announce. That's a public facility where they've allocated a certain portion to the Oppenheimers. I want to see how that thing operates because it looks like they are smuggling out gold there. And a lot of minerals are being smuggled in. And they're smuggling a lot of cash inside the country through those gates. So I have a right, by the way, I'm a member of parliament, to go anywhere, announced or unannounced. How can I sponsor a motion of no private entries or airport in parliament if I don't know how the airports work, private airports? I have to go and see for myself. Then I can sponsor a bill, a member's bill, if I'm not satisfied on how they operate. But I have to go and see. So I'll be visiting that Oppenheimer's airport because I'm not scared of the Oppenheimers. I don't want their money. They're giving everybody here in South Africa except the EFF because they know they can't buy the EFF. But the Oppenheimers are the ones who established the body politic of South Africa. The first Oppenheimer was a member of parliament, by the way. So the Oppenheimers do not exist outside politics. That's why they put so much money in politics. They started the politics of South Africa. And they know that for their business to thrive, they must be in charge of politics. They formed the DA. They formed that thing of Mampela Rampel, Ahanang. Ingi? Ahang. Then they formed this thing of Hemen. You know, every time they form this thing, they tell them, go and work with the DA. So they mean, go and work with our party. The females in the Oppenheimers look after the DA. The male species of the Oppenheimers look after the ANC. That's why they don't want a third role player, because they want to control the political system by controlling these two, the ANC and the DA. You can't tell me the Oppenheimers don't control the ANC. Nikki Oppenheimer agreed, is it Nikki? Agreed that they contributed to CR17 because he thought it was in the best interest of democracy. He put money in an internal party contest because he understands the implications of who wins in that party. So the Oppenheimers are in. Our state security, they are forget him. You know why state security is taken there? And you know why it's given to the most useless people? It's the slush fund. It's how much? 4 billion? More than that. More than that. Of slush fund. Cash that you take and don't account for. When they went to Nazareth, that cash was used to support other candidates. That's what Cyril is talking about. That's why he must go to SCOP to explain what are you talking about. In the commission there is a spy that says we carried cash of, they call it what? SSA to Nazareth, slush fund. The Auditor General does not have access there. The Inspector General does not have access. Once the Inspector General forced to have access, they say the security clearance issue still have a problem. Even when they've cleared you, they just change it. There's a new information. That clearance is not proper to destabilize you, not to have access into. So what is taken to the presidency is not SSA necessarily. It's the slush fund. They took that money there because he's going to conference this year. He's going to need that money because the Oppenheimers, the Ruperts, and all of the CR17 people, they can no longer donate. They are very scared because they say, well, Pella, we're going to be disclosed here. With this year 17, the way it's being challenged, one day some judge is going to give a ruling or open here. So we can't do it again, Cyril. You are in power now. You have to find a way of sustaining your campaign. The only way to sustain his campaign is by taking the slush fund. So he said he's taking SSA there because it's dysfunctional. But SSA is not the only dysfunctional thing. Everything is dysfunctional in South Africa. Why SSA? Because there is billions in slush fund that you don't have to account for. And a lot of these people line up their girlfriends, they line up their nyatsis, concubines, they line up their families and say, these are spies. These are spies. And then that's where the money goes. And then they go and catch it from the other side. So that's why SSA is good. What is your intelligence about Mondli Ngungubele? Mondli Ngungubele is Tlaela. In all respect, he's a fool who like posturing as if he's ideological, he's an ideologue, a thinker. No, he's not a thinker. Mondli is not a thinker. He throws phrases, if you listen to him, he throws phrases to sound smart. But the guy is generally a fool. And I'm not gossiping about him. I told him in Parliament, Karwena, you are stupid, and you know it. Even when you are sitting alone, you know you are a fool. You are a non-thinker. He was very angry that he was not impressed with me. But he knew I was telling him the truth. And for sure, even the wife knows them, shame. Or my husband is a stupid. So, Mondli can't do anything to help Cyril. Nothing. They could have given it to Zizi. He's got his own problems of cash flow management. So, but he's still young. Zizi is still young. He still has got a lot of potential. He's young. I didn't say it's the youth. That's your problem. When we say people are young, you're thinking youth. I didn't say it's the youth. I'm saying he's still young. Compared to, it's like saying what? I'm young. You know what is the youth age in China? 50 years. Yeah. So in terms of the Chinese youth definition, we are very young. So Zizi is young. He's got these smaller skeletons, which must be clarified quickly so that he can assume serious responsibilities. He can try. That thing is complex. I don't know if you will be able to run it, because those people, the first thing they do is to scandalize you, not publicly. They come with a file like this when you are a minister of intelligence, like this. And then they say, we are trying to manage this thing. And then they give you a file. You find your SMSs that you are sending to concubines, and then your pictures in a shower. You're like, what happened? But don't worry, we've got it covered. Then from there, you are in their pocket. Now you give me a file like that, I'm going to show my wife the first thing. Or this is what is happening. These guys gave me this thing. Because they want to blackmail me. You can go through it. You will decide if you are continuing or you are remaining here. Once my wife is proper, I take the file back to the office of SSA and tell them you can go to hell. No one is going to blackmail me. Why are you giving me this file? What do you want to do with it? Do what you want to do with it. Not going to live a life of a blackmail. So the reason ministers of intelligence are stuck and are undermined, those guys on arrival, they give you your file of gossip. They have paralyzed you. So Zizi's words, because his stories were on the Zondo Commission of 1 million, for sure they went to fetch other millions which were not on the Zondo, and they said to Zizi, we are the ones who prevented these ones from going to Zondo. Don't worry, we've got you covered, so that you owe them for the rest of your life in that department. You can't move. And then they continue buying luxurious houses with the slush fund money. It's a very complex situation. It needs the brave. The brave ones who can't be blackmailed. Yabo.
Thanks, President. We'll take another round of hands. Even the latecomers don't have appetite. Okay. One. We'll go 1, 2, 3, and then 4, Samgele, 5, Odiwe. Okay, you can shoot.
Good day, Mawande from the Sunday Times. Just on the issue of the campaign against these companies, the balance between foreign workers and nationals. I mean, as they say, charity begins at home. Has the EFF checked service providers that provide services to the EFF if they are within that range? I mean, Mr. Malema, for instance, you said when we were in Kagisho that you will even check your family business, Mikiti. Have you done that? And all other companies that do business with the EFF. And then secondly, on the same issue, isn't this approach that you have employed like unsustainable? The reason I say that, isn't a more sustainable way one that goes to Parliament where you guys have real power to make permanent changes in terms of introducing legislation that is clear and unambiguous in terms of ratios in particular industries, securing particular industries for locals. I know there's a lot of countries that do that and it's embedded in law. What is the EFF strategy in terms of going that far? Because that is a much more permanent solution than these visits. Because when you leave with these visits, the very following day, the situation may go back to the old one. Thank you very much.
Mr. Malema, your former deputy in Sorry.
Yeah, but
You don't press it, you touch it.
please also introduce yourself, my brother.
It's Loiso from Independent, down the road. Your former deputy in the Youth League has put his hand up as a potential candidate as deputy president of the ANC and potentially deputy president of the country. What's your view on that? Thanks.
Ndibe?
Mudibe from the Inside Factor. I just want to find out the views of the organization regarding the African continent. We saw Burkina Faso, there's a military coup happening there. Malawian president yesterday dissolved his entire cabinet. Nelson Chamisa in Zimbabwe started his own party. So I wanted to find out the views of what do you think is happening on the continent. Thank you.
Covered, thank you.
You want to take a bite? Okay, let's go.
It's Ndayedzo from Power FM. Talking issues of state security, you've got the parliamentary fire that happened a couple of weeks back. Then there was that vandalism at the Constitutional Court, and more recently that fire at the Waterkloof base. Do you think there's something at play here, or it could be just mere coincidence that you've got these incidents happening, or there is some potential instability brewing in the country, and the role of state security around that? Thanks.
Okay, that's it. You want to go again?
No, sorry, I just need to add to his question, so I don't want to come back. On that, I don't know what is the legitimacy, but there are pictures doing the rounds of some artillery of the UN that is within the country. Does the EFF know anything about that UN coming into the country? And what would that mean, given the legacy of what we know when US steps into a sovereign country like ours? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. President.
Thank you very much. Charity begins at home. This is our home. Yeah. I think we have a very few African brothers and sisters who work here. But we do not conduct any verification on our service providers as to whether they are employing South Africans or Africans. But now that we are running this campaign, surely we will be interested to know what is the staff complement and whether you are hiring South Africans and Africans in a more balanced way or not. Yeah, but we haven't required that because nothing has ever suggested to us that there is a company we're dealing with which has in strike a balance. We are mostly in events. I think that's where we spend most of our money. Huh? Yes. Yeah, we're in events. So, and if you look at the event companies that we deal with, are of young Africans. And if there is a white company, it will be Gear House, which will have to then subcontract Africans and all of that. And in our interaction with these people, there hasn't been anything that suggested we needed to even ask them. Because there wouldn't be, you won't be overwhelmed by whites. You won't be overwhelmed by African brothers and sisters. Because such abnormality would have, drawn our attention and would have asked our chief, what is your story? What's happening here? So we've never come across such, but all companies, it doesn't matter whether they're dealing with the EFF or not. You can't ask me if I've been to Megiddo because I can't go to Megiddo. I can't inspect myself. I said, if you're listening properly, EFF has got the right even to go to Megiddo and go and check. But you don't just go to places. You always have a reason why you want to go there. So if the EFF has seen a need to go to Megiddo, they can go. No, I mean, why would you be threatened by people who are coming to ask, what is the staff complement here? But there won't be free tea, so they have to pay for everything. No free water. They have to pay because we're a struggling black business. So there's nothing to be hidden at all. But surely you will find foreign nationals that make it. It's their home. They've got a right to work there. But there will be a balance. There is no way there can be a balance. But not only EFF, anyone, labor departments, if they want to go, they can go and do it. We have nothing to hide. We can't even tweet about it, trying to intimidate them not to come. There is tax who do that. But what made me so uncomfortable about your inquiry during the week was to insist on asking how much did we spend on the house of that deceased woman. It's bad. It has got a bad taste. Here people are blessing an old woman who's no more. And then you guys want to be, it's like I gave money to my girlfriend or I built my girlfriend a house with the EFF money, want to see how much I've spent on such a poor woman. You want what that which has been spent on her to be splashed all over. I normally don't even go with journalists when we give people houses because I don't want their poverty displayed in public. It humiliates them. Just that us going there with you, those people are humiliated by the display of their poverty. No, you comrades don't end there. You still go to them, wanting to know how much did they. We can give them 2 million, 5 million, any amount of money we want to give them. It's our money. It's not government money. It's a money that comes from party levies. The money that comes from government, comrades, is always dictated to on how you can and on what you can spend it on. The money you can play around with to do this or that project of the EFF is party levies. We account only to our members about that. And I was asking myself, when you go and ask how much was spent on that old woman who even passed away, let's say it's 1 million, let's say it's 2 million. What do you want to achieve by that? That a 2 million was spent on a poor woman. It was so distasteful, and I was like, it came from Sunday Times, I don't mind. They can write whatever they want to write. I really don't care. I would have been worried if it came from Sunday World or something like that. Because Sunday World and them have got a responsibility, because they are not in the mainstream, controlled by to provide a balanced reporting. Like you, African? Inside Factor. You don't have to be pro anyone. You just have to give a balanced reporting. Because they've taken side. That's why I'm saying Sunday Times. I'm not saying you, I'm saying Sunday Times. So that it must be clear you have nothing to do. Because even you going to ask such things, you would have been put on an assignment to do so. I can't go to Parliament to pass laws on ratios. That's an elitist approach. We do activist approach. We must be on the ground. When we are on the ground and we realize this issue is big and it's a big problem, only then you can go to Parliament. Because we might be legislating an imaginary problem. I went to 3 restaurants. Personally, I don't know, there will be reports ultimately by all EFF. I went to 3. Where there was almost 50-50 staff members is cream. The rest was 70-30. The last one was actually 99.1%, because I've got 12 staff members, only 2 are not from South Africa. I can take out all of that and present it here. And I'm like, it looks like perhaps in Cape Town, but here we might be dealing with some imaginary problem. But we're still on it. We'll find the outcomes through this campaign if we have a problem like that in the restaurant and hospitality industry. But it goes without saying in the farms. They hire people without papers because they don't want to pay them properly. I'm using Floyd's iPad here, so it has got a pin. It keeps on closing, and I don't know the pin, and it doesn't want to give me the pin. Bruno Mtolo. Lamula is Bruno Mtolo. What he does with his life, we're less interested, Shem. He has got no, whether he becomes a deputy president of the ANC and ultimately government, is Bruno Mtolo. I don't even know why Lindiwe responded to Lamula. He's a baby, he's got no credentials, none whatsoever. He's a product of factional arrangement. Lamula became deputy president of the Youth League because I went to speak to DD, not because I identified talent in him. I went to speak to DD that we need Mpumalanga to support us. He said to me, but Mpumalanga has been overlooked. Okay, what do you mean? He said, I will give you a solid province on condition you make one of us deputy president. And I said, who? He said, Lamula. I said, no problem. I know Lamula from Univen. He was a SRC president or something. And then from there, I've never known him. But When he said Lamula, then I knew Lamula is David Masondo's boy. And me and David Masondo worked well together before. So I was like, if he has had some interactions with David, surely he should be having some idea of what we're trying to pursue. That's how he became the deputy president of the Youth League. He didn't become the deputy president of the Youth League because he was a champ rising through the ranks of the Youth League. No, he was not. I even doubt if he was a chairperson of a branch in Bushbuck or a region or province. If he was province, it's those things of just going there so that you prepare to come to national. But he's a product of an arrangement. He didn't come on his own, where the leadership of the Youth League identified talent. You see Makaka, Sindiso Makaka. That was a talent established on the ground by the leadership of the Youth League. That was a pure talent that came through the ranks of the Youth League, not through some arrangement. Now he wants to contest DD, his political mentor, the man who made him what he is today. There's a lady saying, I forgot it, something, something like that. Bruno Mutol, Didi. So, but who is he? I mean, we should be worried if he was going to be a threat or anything. He won't be a threat. He is a young man who suffers from uncontrollable ambition for power. Why would he want to be deputy president ahead of his generation? There's a generation that came before him in the Youth League. There's a generation, Yabu Malusi, Yabu Lulu Johnson, Yabu Mbalula. When you are a leader, you don't talk about yourself. You talk about those who came before you. When Mbalula came to me and said I must be president of the Youth League, I said to him, I can't be president of the Youth League ahead of Zitles Galal. Arwai Karno, Zitles Galala and them, they are the last generation before us. So you are guaranteed, once we put Zitles Galala, the president of the Youth League, this generation is going to leave. And then from there, we will come in as a generation, right? And then dynamics at the time could not allow. But I was like, if this generation can't find each other amongst themselves, we are left with no option but to take this responsibility. And I was making a miscalculation because it was actually our generation that dominated the Youth League at that time. That's why when Sitles Galal and Saki Mufugeng went to lock people in the rooms and said, we must not address them, those people called us to jump the walls. When their leaders locked rooms and went to dine somewhere in their absence, they called us that the leadership is gone. Please make a plan to jump the wall and address us inside here, and then you can jump back. By the time they come back, you would have finished. That's how we won that conference. And they made a mistake because they didn't know that they were not appreciating that there is a younger generation here, which Julius and them came with it from COSAS. But when I was first approached, I didn't say, hey, me, I've been waiting for it. I said, but there are people ahead of us. That's how we're brought up. That you never contest ahead of your generation. I mean, ahead of a generation that came before you. So that's what he must be doing. But there is no longer discipline. So there's no longer even a generational rubric. There is no longer center. There is no longer leadership. Everybody, the membership is actually the leadership. People who are supposed to be members, they are leaders themselves. So once members become leaders, it's a problem. Because that thing you lead by a layer, you build first, second, and third layer leadership. Then they come like this, they follow each other like that. Amar, you can't tell people who are driven by faction and undesirable for power that there are people ahead of you. Or it's my time to eat. Well, the continent is not going through what could be described as a crisis per se. I think on the side of the West, we're experiencing a bit of difficulty. And ECOWAS is actually dealing with it decisively. Burkina Faso must be dealt with decisively, both by UN, not UN, AU, and ECOWAS. And that one who dissolved his cabinet, and it's his prerogative. It's not a declaration of a crisis. I think it's more of an internal issue than any other thing. He's a president who's struggling with getting relevance in Malawi. And he overpromised and is finding difficult to deliver. And therefore, he wants to be blaming it on other people. So maybe he will win. Sudan, till today, we still have problems there. A religion has been used to divide the African people. We've got a crisis in Ethiopia as well. We hope it will be resolved. There should be peaceful African solution to all of those African problems. But as you know, we were from time to time going through tribulations as a continent, and we should be able to find permanent African solution. I didn't know about the UN people being here. I'm getting it for the first time. I don't know. They should have passed by Konka. Maybe we would have seen them. That they are UN people here. But where we go, I've not seen any UN DP. SG. I've not seen anyone like that. So we'll follow it up after this to check if there is such a thing. Parliament fire is really a negligence matter. There's no one who burned Parliament. It's like that thing of the fire there, of Waterloo. If there are such conspiracies, then they must also apply in Waterloo, because everywhere, every time there is a fire, there must be Christmas. Yeah? Christmas must be everywhere. There's fire, there's Christmas. That thing is neglected. You know, I like property, so I pay much more attention into property development and all of that. The way it burned is so interesting. It burned from the roof. And in the roof, that's where you have a lot of wires. And, you know, unlike now, in the past, people who were doing electrifications, air cons, and all of that, they will just leave wires moving like this. If you get into most old buildings' roofs, it's a mess. But now, the regulation is such that they must all be organized and then put together somehow, so this in a tube of some sort, so that there is no such a thing that the possibility that might have occurred in Parliament. So there, with honesty, I suspect the rats went to eat the wires. And then these wires came into contact and caused a spark. But because they don't want to take the responsibility, they go to a homeless man. Because if that is the case, then someone in Parliament must take responsibility. Because firstly, what are the rats doing there? The place must be fumigated from time to time. There must be rat traps and all manner of things. But equally, those wires in this day and age should have been put inside this tube thing we're talking about. So if in the past they were like that, with new renovations that are taking place in Parliament permanently, and we don't see what they are renovating. They should have gone to reorganize those wires and make sure that even if one is loose, it doesn't come into contact with the other one to avoid causing the spark. The fire department, Cyril said Cape Town is a working metro, what, but that metro also, the inspectors should have picked it up long time ago. From time to time, they must inspect if we are fire compliant. And they should have picked it up that your wires are not in order. You need to put these wires this way, otherwise we're revoking the occupational certificate of Parliament. There is no Christmas who did anything. That's how that thing of they carry, the heavy thing we wanted to carry the other day and removed from Parliament. Mason. Mace was saved because Mace was here on the corridors and the fire was up there. Because I'm told DP, the passages have not burned of Parliament. It's the roof. So, come on, man. Christmas with all his sophistication, how can he plan to bend the roof and make sure the passages are not? It's a technical problem and someone must take responsibility. Two people, Thandi Modise and the current speaker, Noziviwe, and the Secretary of Parliament. Anyway, if these two politicians can't take responsibility, the Secretary of Parliament must take responsibility. Because Parliament belongs to the Secretary of Parliament. She must fall on a sword. I don't know why she's still Secretary of Parliament. You know, a person who shows remorse, even if there was nothing wrong that she did, she must just say, out of respect, you had assigned me to look after this place, and I did not do what was expected of me. Whether it is bent, whether it's a technical fault, or whatever reason that is going to come at the end, Secretary of Parliament by now should have resigned. And said, let's say Christmas banned it. Where was Secretary of Parliament when Christmas was banning her Parliament? Because she should have put all systems in place to make sure that no one ever gets into that Parliament. Especially after Mbeki incident, where an intruder went into Mbeki's office, it's an office or a house, and was drinking Mbeki's things there. For the whole week, sat there without any interference. So clearly, from that time until now, we should have improved the security of that place. That should have served as an alarm. You call yourself a Secretary of Parliament, from that Mbeki incident until now, you have not done anything to secure Parliament. An honorable, innocent member of staff of Parliament would have resigned. She can't resign. She's a deployee. Cadre deployment. She's waiting for them as a mascot for them to tell her, no, you have to resign. She must resign because Parliament belongs to her. For whatever reason, Parliament has banned. The same thing with Waterkloof. Whoever is in charge there, the Secretary of Defense, must take responsibility and step down. You can't ban the assets of the public and there are no consequences. Someone must, with humility, I'm not saying I've done anything wrong, but the fact that this thing banned under my own supervision, I failed you. I therefore wish to leave. I don't know why Floyd by now, they even asked that Secretary of Parliament, why are you not resigning? I'm not saying you must resign. I'm asking you, why is your conscience not telling you that you must resign and do a right thing? So that South Africans, as they continue to investigate, they know that at least there's one person who took responsibility. Till to date, Parliament has burned to ashes who are going around asking for spaces to hold parliament. What a shame. But no one has lost a job. That's South Africa for you.
Thank you, President. One last round. It's the final one. Yeah. Are you fine? Okay. I was trying to give you a bonus. Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief. We've come to our last part, and that is me thanking you for coming. Thank you very much, comrades, for coming. Cheers.